What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports here at the voice of college football. If you're an SEC fan, please subscribe to our SEC channel. If you're an LSU fan, please help us out. Subscribe to our LSU channel. We're going to preview the 2022 schedule for the Tigers. Before we get into the 2022 schedule, let's look back at 2021. The 2021 schedule for LSU wasn't that bad. They had UCLA in the non-conference. That turned out to be a loss, and we kind of found out quickly that this LSU team was not going to be a playoff contender after they lost that game to UCLA. Other than that, though, they had McNeese, Central Michigan, and ULM, so not too tough of a non-conference schedule. Looking back, LSU definitely would have liked to have won that game against UCLA. And then in the SEC, they had to play Kentucky on the road. Wound up being a tough game for them. They also played Florida, who they play every year out of the SEC East. But you see, it was right there between Auburn and Arkansas. They lost 5 out of 6 games, and that's really where the season got away from them. We're going to look ahead here to 2022 now, and this is the schedule. Before we go game by game, let's look at just who they play outside of the SEC West, because of course they're going to play every SEC West team. They're going to play Florida State in New Orleans. That's going to be on the Sunday night of that opening weekend. Huge game. Two teams that have, I think, potential next season, but you really need to win this game. I mean, if these teams are going to really make a big jump in 22, they probably need to win this game. The loser of this game could be set for another disappointing season. So it's not necessarily the biggest non-conference game in terms of being a marquee matchup or a top 25 matchup or anything like that. But just for the importance for both teams, I think this is a huge game, and it's going to be a fun one. LSU, Florida State in New Orleans. They also play Southern, New Mexico, and UAB. A good group of 5 team there in UAB, but LSU should be able to take care of business in that one. And this year they'll play Tennessee out of the East. They'll play the Vols at home. They'll play Florida on the road. Again, they'll play Florida every year. But Tennessee, an intriguing matchup. It's not Georgia, so you're happy about that. Tennessee, where are they going to be in the East? We think that they're at least going to be middle of the pack, but this could be a dangerous team and good offense coming back. So that'll be a fun matchup there in Death Valley. So let's go game by game now. They'll open up with that game against Florida State. Just talked about it. Huge game for both of these teams. And LSU, they want to get off to a good start with Brian Kelly. Rough start last year, of course, losing to UCLA. So that's one that they've got to have. They'll play Southern after that, and then Mississippi State on September 17th. Home game, SEC opener. That'll be a big one there in the New Mexico on September 24th. So if you look at that first month of the season, there's potential to go 4-0, get some hype going there, but there's also potential to go 2-2. That is a schedule that is not the easiest schedule to start off a season with Mississippi State and Florida State in there, but at least no true road games. They do have their first true road game on October the 1st, though, and that's on the road at Auburn. Of course, Auburn came into LSU and won last season for the first time since 1999. LSU going to want to give them some revenge, some payback this year. That'll be a really good game, I think. Two teams that Auburn's kind of in that same boat with Florida State and LSU. They have potential, but there is also potential for things to go bad again. And that's going to be a huge game right there. Right after that, they'll play Tennessee. This month of October, really, I tell you what, this schedule, there are no easy games in the schedule. And that's just part of playing in the SEC West this year. This division has gotten really competitive. There are no bad teams. And because of that, once you get into SEC play, there really are no breaks. But they'll play Tennessee, then at Florida on October 15th. And then they'll play Ole Miss on October 22nd. They'll have their bye week before playing Alabama. Seems like they have that every year. But yeah, you look at that stretch. Auburn on the road, Tennessee, at Florida, Ole Miss. These are not games that LSU can't win, but they're just all tough games. I mean, winning all these games in a row is going to just be very hard to do. It's possible, though. LSU, if things come together for them, it's not impossible to say that this team could be undefeated heading into Alabama, but I think it's unlikely. I just think you have too many tough games. A road game against Auburn, road game against Florida, Tennessee and Ole Miss, two high-powered offenses. You can see how if this team does have a good record, maybe just one loss, you could have a lot of hype going into that Alabama game, but it could easily get away from them just like it did last year, just like it did the year before, just because you have so many tough games. They will play Alabama to start off the month of November on the 5th at home. We know Alabama's going to be really good next year. That's going to be a tough game, but it's at home. You never know. Arkansas after that on November 12th on the road. Another tough one. UAB on the 19th, and then they'll finish things up with Texas A&M on the road. This schedule is just really tough. I mean, there's no way LSU was not going to have a tough schedule this year because they have to play everyone in the SEC West, and we know they have to play Florida. Maybe if you get Vanderbilt instead of Tennessee, maybe if you play FAU instead of Florida State. I mean, there are ways you could have made this schedule a little bit easier for LSU. But you know it's going to be a tough schedule when you play in the SEC West, when you play Florida every year, just like with Auburn. They have to go through the West. They have to play Georgia every year. So a very tough schedule here for LSU. A schedule, though, that, again, I think gives them an opportunity in most of their games. They could have a really good year. But like I said, it could easily get away from them and be a really bad year once again. Probably a lot of close games, and it's going to come down to how they finish in those close games and if they can pull them out to whether or not LSU is going to have a really good year, a really bad year, or maybe kind of in the middle and just a solid year.